Hello, and welcome back to Ask the Trade Pros. This is your favorite show where a couple of trade guys talk about nonsense and occasionally trade stuff. We're here to answer your questions about your AC, electrical, plumbing, and any other home system so that you can hopefully keep your home running smoothly. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Todd.
Today's question is from our listener Charlie, who writes, "Last week I went to plug something into one of my living room outlets, and the outlet had suddenly stopped working. There was no big spark, no signs of flame, and anything to indicate an issue. It just stopped. Why does this happen, and is there anything that he can do about it?"
Thanks for the question, Charlie. A dead outlet can be unexpected and an inconvenient problem. So let's get into why that could happen and what to do to get it fixed. Few possible reasons that your outlet stopped working is A, you have a trip breaker. B, fuse, blown fuse. Hopefully your house isn't that old or outdated that you still have a fuse box, those old screw-in fuses, or even hopefully you don't have any bus-style fuses, but that could potentially be a reason. So that'd be the first thing I would check is A, did it trip a breaker or did it blow a fuse? B, or C, I should say, could be, is it controlled from a GFC outlet or AFCI? That could be tripped. You could reset that and see what's going on. Could be loose or damaged wire. We see that often, but that often relates to overloaded circuit. So that's going to be the next thing is what is running off of that circuit? Are you powering a microwave, a toaster oven, an air fryer all at the same time? If so, that's probably not the right thing to do. So
we could look at that. We also have to talk a little bit about AFCIs and GFCIs. I know a lot of customers or listeners are familiar with GFCIs, which is ground fault circuit interrupter. You see those in your bathrooms, on your kitchens, counters, anywhere for code for us, safety reasons, anywhere that water would be near the outlet, outside, kitchen, bathroom. That's where you'll see GFCIs. They have a built-in tripping mechanism where there's a surge in power, will trip it, and then it has to be reset. The AFCI works similar, but it's generally outside of the breaker box, and it's a special type of breaker, which we found that fail a lot, so they break prematurely, so there's always that problem. But again, it's the same concept. It's an arc fault protection circuit. What would cause these things to fail? We've had examples where you plug a vacuum or a portable air conditioning system, if you have one of them, or some high amp draw system into the AFC GFCIs. They'll just cause it to pop just because of the way they work.
Yeah, so I can tell you in my experience that the homeowners would always think, oh, my outlet needs to be replaced. They go buy an outlet. Well, I could tell you that 95% of the time, it's not going to be the outlet. It's going to be a burnt wire, something shorted it. It's going to be a bad breaker, a GFCI, something along those lines. It's very rarely the outlet itself. So if something happened, the biggest thing that we see all the time is something shorted, your hot shorted to ground or shorted to neutral, and everything from that outlet past that's attached to it is also going to not be working.
Right, like Todd said, so start with what you've done recently with that outlet. If you haven't used it in a long time, now remember, many outlets are in a circuit, so it's not, that outlet is not by itself. There could be 6, 8 other outlets connected in the same circuit. So have you plugged anything into that same circuit recently that might have done that? Might have popped the breaker, might have tripped a GFCI, vacuum cleaner, large hair dryer, air fryer, like Todd said. We see it a lot in kitchen appliances where many outlets are in one circuit, and they'll try to put a blender on one and then a coffee maker on the other one, and they'll pop the breaker. So you see that a lot. So the first thing to figure out why would be to think about what you've done on your outlets or multiple outlets in your house recently. Is it anything different than normal, or is it just the same old thing?
Yeah. Are you plugging a space heater into the outlet that's attached
worst fire hazard outlet breaking thing we've ever seen?
Yeah. Talk about the burning question, right?
Well, yeah.
So back to what Jordan was talking about and overloading circuits. So that's probably going to be the number one cause of any issue, really. And a lot of codes have changed. So depending,
you mean I can't plug my 8 outlet extension cord into the top of the outlet and an 8 outlet one into the other outlet and then more down the line of the living room?
Yeah, then you could look like my dad's house and have wires running across everywhere and 2 outlets converted to 8. You can do that if you want, but we don't recommend it ourselves. But you do what you want, and then once you have a problem, give us a call, and we'll come tell you why you shouldn't be doing that and what needs to be done. But realistically, regarding the codes, and age of the house, codes have changed. So it used to be that typically a kitchen or bathroom is going to be on a 20 amp circuit, meaning your breaker is going to be 20 amps. The majority of your other outlets throughout your home are going to be controlled through a 15 amp circuit.
I've seen a whole house on one 15 amp circuit.
Yeah, well, we've seen some crazy stuff. So with that kitchen in mind, remember in your kitchen, as Jordan mentioned, you have appliances. It used to be that you would have one 20 amp circuit feeding your kitchen. You were lucky if you had more than one. So on that 20 amp circuit, you had if you had a garbage disposal and a dishwasher, you'd have that on the circuit. All your outlets above your kitchen counter space were on that circuit. Your refrigerator was on that circuit. Then microwaves became popular. So your hood vent would have been on that circuit. So what happened is the over the range microwaves became popular and people started putting those in. Typical microwave is what, 1100 to 1500 watts or something like that.
That's the whole circuit.
That's close to the whole circuit. So that's, 11, depending on the wattage, 11 we'll say to 15 amps just potentially for a microwave. And then you throw your garbage disposal or another countertop appliance, a blender or that toaster oven.
Oh, I see it now in rooms where people don't realize it. You'll have we live in a life of first world luxury here, right? You don't even walk to the kitchen anymore to go to the fridge. You have a little mini fridge in your room or your office. Then you throw on top of that your gaming computer, which is a high-powered device. And then you might have additional fans or other units plugged in there. Same thing we see. It used to be I just see it in kitchens. Now I see it in a bedroom or an office.
Yeah, I went to a house recently and I think I counted 8 refrigerators in the house. Wine refrigerator, a mini fridge in every bedroom.
All on one extension cord?
No, I didn't see cords running everywhere, but there was a deep freezer out in the garage. And what people don't realize is that stuff pulls a lot of power. So a lot of times you have to run dedicated circuits just for this. We see it pretty much a couple times a week with kitchens. We're separating circuits.
Just did it for another customer who wasn't even in the kitchen. It was in the garage. And they had a garage fridge like everybody has. Well, what people don't realize in a lot of homes out here is the garage circuit is also tied to the outside outlets. That's all on the same circuit. So they had the garage in there and then they kept trying to plug their blower or their weeding machine into the outlet and they wondered why the breaker kept popping.
Yeah, most electrical problems, bad outlets, there's always typically going to be an underlying cause. And for the most part, it's always going to be an overcurrent.
So besides going back to a Luddite lifestyle and turning all their lights off and living by candles, what are some of the things that our loyal listeners can do to check this problem out for themselves before they realize they're going to burn the house down and call a professional?
So one, obviously as we evolve and appliances are becoming popular, you have to have every new kitchen appliance, blenders, mixers, coffee machines,
Vegematic.
What you should be doing is on every appliance you have, they're going to have what we call a data plate on that appliance. So look at that data plate and see how many watts it's using. We talked about some of the big ones: microwaves, toaster ovens, air fryers, stuff like blenders, stuff like that. Those are going to be high amperage and high starting amperage devices. So always be aware of how many watts that is, and you could do the math. There's simple calculators that you can get on any smartphone or look up on the computer that you can convert the watts into amps. And just know that, hey, this microwave along with this air fryer, you can't run them both at the same time because you're gonna trip that breaker.
Okay, and if they trip the breaker, now what?
If you trip the breaker, either you stop using both devices at one time, or really what you should do is separate it. So we could talk a little bit about how new builds are. For a new build, you're going to have a dedicated circuit for your refrigerator. You're going to have a dedicated circuit for your microwave. You're going to have a dedicated circuit for your disposal and dishwasher. And then you're going to have a dedicated circuit for, just your over-the-counter outlets. So all those circuits just for your kitchen, which tells you something.
Yeah, so we could redesign the house and rebuild it. That's not going to help Charlie very much though right now, right? So maybe Charlie should start by checking the breaker for this outlet. Now, hopefully somebody's labeled them for him, but we go to panels all the time where the breakers are just labeled like nonsense. But you might start, Charlie, by resetting the breaker. So do it correctly. We get this all the time and people apologize to us immensely when we come out there. To reset a breaker, you turn it all the way off first and then all the way back on. You don't just turn it to on. If it's tripped, it won't work. So it's not necessarily a bad breaker. Turn it all the way off, turn it all the way on.
Well, what's tripped? How do they know what tripped is?
They don't. So sometimes it will pop into the middle and be loose. Sometimes we've seen breakers that are in bad shape and it looks like it's on or off even though it's tripped. Always recommend resetting them. If you're unsure, it's not going to cause much harm to reset it. You might have to set some clocks or something. Just go all the way to off, go all the way back on. And if you don't know which one it is, I guess you're going to be turning all the lights in your house on and off real fast.
Yeah, so really the only other thing that you could check yourself is, and I'd say it's a very small percentage of homeowners feel comfortable doing this, is getting out the multimeter and testing to see what's actually going on.
Well, a lot of customers will use the basic voltmeter, little voltage sensor. It's a little wand, looks like a pen that you can buy somewhere, and that just goes in front of it and tells you if you still got voltage there. If you still got voltage, then this circuit might be
Doesn't tell you how much voltage, though.
It does not. No, it does not. You might also make yourself familiar. There's plenty of videos online how to reset GFCIs. We get that all the time where customers will tell me it was working, it wasn't working. Now, some of the nice new GFCIs actually have a red light, green light, or yellow light, green light. You know if it's on or off, it pops, but a lot of them don't. So you want to reset your GFCIs because there could be, and we find this all the time, there could be some random outlet in some random place that's a GFCI that's controlling that entire circuit. I went into a customer, bought a house. They're probably up by your parents' house, so we're going to say they're built in the 80s. They had random outlets in their living room and dining room were connected by one random GFCI in this nook or nubby, and I don't know who built that or who set it up, but the power was off, and we had to go through the whole house to figure out why that one GFCI controlled some random living room, dining room outlets. So if you're comfortable, Charlie, go reset all your GFCIs in your house too. There's usually a button on them. There's one you'll see. It says reset. Now, some GFCIs are not resettable, so that's a separate issue. Some GFCIs are just going to blow and that's it. But
yeah, just like a breaker, sometimes the reset button gets stuck. So on a GFCI, if it's not functional with the test and reset button, then it could be a bad GFCI. So GFCIs do fail often enough to be a good reason cause.
And if you have AFCIs, depending on how old your house is, AFCIs fail a lot. We see that a lot. They're required on most of the newer builds, but they just fail like crazy.
Well, Charlie, I hope we answered your question for you.
Or at least we got to talk for a long time.
Yeah, at least we got to talk about it. So really, electrical issues can potentially be dangerous to handle. So always reach out to your local trusted trade pro for guidance.
You don't want them to be like that one customer you found, Todd, that had a burning, melted outlet and asked you if you could shove it back into the wall?
No, please don't do that. He's not kidding. It's the funny thing. This outlet was actually
like melting.
It was glowing red. It was literally glowing red, and they seemed to be upset why I shut off their power.
Well, the wife was okay with it. He just wanted you to fix it by putting it back in the wall.
Electrical, again, can be serious. So if you're not comfortable touching electrical, if you're uncertain, always call your local trusted trade pro.
Thank you for listening to Ask the Trade Pros. We release new episodes every other Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have a question you would like us to answer on the show, please leave us a voicemail or an email, and we may feature your question in an upcoming episode. That information is in the show notes. This podcast is sponsored by the good folks at Done Right Services. As always, thank you for your support.